Deltarune presents us with a prophecy, a chosen hero, and a player with absolute control over Kris. The story seems clear. We are the force that will save or destroy the world. And then there's Susie, the bully, the side character who's forced to join and who, at least at first, seems much more like an obstacle than a help. But what if we've all been looking at the story from the wrong point of view? What if the true protagonist has always been her? From the moment she rebels and demands to make her own decisions, shattering the illusion that the player holds all the power, her refusal to accept that darkness aren't real, showing an empathy that defies the very rules of the universe. The instant she literally shatters the stained glass window that depicts the tragic prophecy, and most importantly, how her unwavering hope inspires Kris to defy the control that subjugates them. But what does all this lead to? Well, it leads us to a revolutionary idea. Kris is the hero the prophecy needs, but Susie is the heroine who can destroy it. And to prove how this girl who started out trusting no one became the only hope for a world without choice, we must analyze the first step of her incredible transformation. Chapter 1. Distrust. The moment we enter the first Dark World, we see the first facet of Susie's character, her distrust. She's impatient, uninterested in anyone or anything, and just wants to get out of there. She doesn't believe she's a hero. She doesn't see herself that way, and the whole business about the legend in the Dark Fountains barely piques her interest. From the very beginning, she acts out violently, justifying it with the idea that it would be unthinkable to spare those who are attacking you. It's a logical standpoint if you think about it. Isn't that why most people do a neutral route on their first Undertale playthrough? In Susie's mind, her violence is justified as self-defense, a clear parallel to her life in the light world. The difference is that back home, she felt under attack even when no one was actually attacking her. They were just afraid of her, and that fear, which had twisted into prejudice, was the source of so many of her problems. But Susie never came across as evil or corrupted by hatred. She was just someone who lacked trust in others and in herself. She's a person who grew up in a hostile environment, and her way of coping is always to be on the defensive, even against those who genuinely try to get close. Paradoxically, the first Dark World taught her that there's more to life than hostility and insults, that beneath it all, there's also friendship. She didn't stop her rampage for Ralsei or Kris. That's made crystal clear during the first fight with Crowned, but their words must have resonated with her because she was forced to face the consequences of her actions with Lancer, her first real friend. What's brilliant about this is that Lancer validates her. He makes her feel like part of the bad guys, free in their own way, but deep down just as dorky and just as good as the heroes from the prophecy. This proves, without a doubt, that Susie's evilness is a facade. It's a wall she built to protect herself. This is reinforced by how she acts once she joins the bad guys, swapping the Lancer cookie for another cookie, the half-baked plan to have Kris and Ralsei build a machine that's supposed to destroy them. She even gets worried when Lancer heads into the forest alone, knowing he has a terrible sense of direction and could get lost. Deep down, she's a good person who likely grew up in a hostile environment that forced her to act like someone she never really was. But if I had to pinpoint one pivotal moment for Susie's development, it would undoubtedly be Lancer's betrayal and the subsequent fight against the king. It's hard to describe the taste of betrayal, especially for Susie, coming from the person she considered her very first friend. The trust that was just beginning to blossom within her was shattered in an instant, and for a second, we almost see her end Lancer's life. But instead of finishing the job, she chooses not to. Lancer hadn't betrayed her. He had protected her. He protected them both from what their combined violence could unleash. And the forgiveness Susie grants isn't just for Lancer, but for the rest of the Darkners and the king, with whom she seals the fight with a promise. Susie's first great leap forward was learning to forgive even those who don't ask for it. In that battle with her best friend, she learned for the first time what the cycle of violence truly means, and she chose not to repeat it. What I love about the end of this chapter is how her own words are thrown back at her. When the king tells Kris, "Quiet people piss me off," Susie doesn't hesitate for a second. She strikes him, demanding he let their friend go. She finally understands what it feels like to be on the other side of that hostility. It's this experience that helps her evolve so much as a character. She defends Kris, not just as a friend, but as someone who was also labeled, ignored, and silenced, even by her. It's as if in defending them, she's also defending herself, the version of her that no one listened to when she needed it most. Chapter 2. Metamorphosis. Just when we thought her character arc was over, Chapter 2 arrived to prove how wrong we were. Susie seems to have learned many lessons on her own. She's realized that violence isn't always the answer, and that maybe being a hero isn't about being born to save the world, but about deciding that the world is worth trying to save. The idea that she might actually be part of the prophecy she had ignored from the start begins to take root in her mind, not because someone told her so, but because she is starting to believe it. One of her most important decisions at the beginning of the chapter is as simple as it is powerful, deciding that she has just as much agency as Kris. The fight against Sweet Captain Cakes makes her question why Kris has to lead all their decisions, as if she weren't smart enough to act on her own. And then she realizes, as absurd as it may seem, that she has free will. She stands up to Ralsei, and instead of following his strategy, she forces him to act too, as an equal, not as her subordinate, because if they're going to be a team, they have to play like one, not like Kris is the player and they're just pawns. I think the implications of this are massive. Ralsei, with his vast knowledge of the prophecy and the rules of his world, might have thought that, as predicted, Kris, or the player, was the only one capable of acting, or at least the only one with the power of choice. From the very beginning, Susie sets out to prove him wrong. She makes the decisions she believes are necessary without asking for permission. From her improvised plan in the second crown fight, where she throws Ralsei to knock off the crown, to her final decision to launch herself with Kris to seal the Titan. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. During the second chapter, it's Susie who decides the path they take should diverge. Yes, Ralsei perceives Kris as the leader, the one who directs, who holds absolute power over everything that happens. This is reflected when he asks them where to go at the entrance to Cyber City. But Susie doesn't see it that way. Why should Kris decide everything? Why can't she decide too? It's more than rebellion. It's common sense. She doesn't see their adventures as a video game. For her, it's all real. Everything that happens to her, she lives it, feels it, and acts on it, which in reality makes her even more of a hero. The simple fact that she learns to heal from Ralsei is a metaphor for her growth. Although she's bad at it at first and her spell doesn't do much, the intention behind it is a gesture that shows she can do more than just attack. She can also heal, because healing is a way of getting involved, and healing is also what she does as she learns that not everything is about being violent. Later, that spell will become key to changing the entire narrative, not just in combat, but in the emotional decisions to come. There are several moments that show Susie as a deeper, more human character, but one of my favorites will always be the scene in Noelle's room. When Susie comes to her rescue and finds her, we see her softest side. We see how her first impression of Noelle, that kind, genuine smile, was something she treasured. Because yes, Susie may have suffered a lot, and that might be the reason for her abrasive behavior, but the scene with Noelle is proof that she carries the memories of people who were kind to her, just like her memory of Toriel, who once treated her like what she really was, just a kid. Overall, this part of Susie's arc is about learning to make her own choices, to care for others, and to let herself be cared for too. It's not just about being strong, but about understanding what to do with that strength when there are no more enemies in front of you. It's about being part of a group, not just as the one who hits the hardest, but as the one who is willing to stay when someone needs her. And through it all, Susie shows that, deep down, she has always cared about her friends. She just needed a chance to prove it to herself. Chapter 3, Worth. I'm not lying when I say that Susie is the only one with any common sense. I know she wouldn't think twice about heroically jumping off a 10-story building, but I'm talking about something different. I mean, Noelle and Burley thought everything that happened in the cyber world was a dream, despite evidence in the light world proving otherwise. Ralsei has an existential and reductive view of all the inhabitants of the dark worlds, and Kris, well, let's save Kris for another time. But Susie is the one we connect with the most. She doesn't understand much about the dark worlds or the prophecy, but that doesn't mean she doesn't care. She fights because she knows it's the right thing to do, but also because there are people she needs to protect in both worlds. She sees Darkners and Lightners as equals. Her confrontation with Ralsei at the very beginning of chapter 3 is compelling proof of this. But Ralsei, how can you say you're not real? I can see you. I can feel you. I can hear you. It's not that she doesn't understand or that she's just in denial. It's that she is completely empirical. What she experiences is what is real. This stands in stark contrast to Ralsei, who knows things and lives in anguish because of that existential knowledge. Dogmas that prevent him from seeing the world the way Susie does. We could get into a debate here about whether Ralsei and Susie represent two conflicting philosophies, but I prefer to focus on Susie's point of view. For her, Lancer is real, Ralsei is real, and the other Darkners are real too, and she genuinely cares about them. She isn't being selfish by wanting to take Ralsei to the festival with her. She simply sees him as an equal, as someone special, and as someone for whom she has genuine affection. And that's why it hurts that she can't do anything to change his reality. It hurts that she can't have fun with her friend in the same way she could with Kris in the real world. And that's the entire point of chapter 3. It all starts as an idea from Ralsei to make it up to Susie, to have fun with her there even if he can't join her in the light world. And what I love at the very end is that final encounter when she tells Tenna, no one's gonna get thrown away. And that one sentence shatters the narrative. Again, because even Ralsei, as the prince from the dark, failed in his duty by looking down on the lives of his subjects. But Susie chose to be different. She chose to change their fate, not just because it hurts her, but because she understands enough to know that people are not objects and should never be treated as such. And what she said wasn't just for Tenna, it was also for Ralsei, who was standing right there, to learn that she really does care. Everything and everyone matters to her. That's the beauty of Susie's perspective. She doesn't need to understand the metaphysics of the dark worlds to know that what she feels is real. The end of chapter 3 leaves her face to face with an insecurity she's never shown before. If she can fail in her duty as a hero, is she really who the prophecy says she is? When she has to surrender after Undyne's kidnapping and wait again, what is a hero's duty? What is her duty? Chapter 4: Resilience. It's time to return to the light world to see how Susie continues to deal with her problems, Caddy's hatred for her, the fear Monster Kid shows, and the judgment that comes with it. It's all reflected in how they talk about her to Kris, warning them about hanging out with her because of the stereotype she built with her attitude. But on the other side of the coin, the side that shows her true character development, are Noelle and Kris. First, there's Noelle, who initially seems obsessed with Susie, admiring her for the image that fear had built, as if the terror she felt was a virtue. And then, there's Kris, who at first seemed apathetic and almost completely detached from Susie until that fateful day at school. But her relationships with both of them transform. As Noelle gets to know the real Susie, that idealization transforms into genuine affection for who she is. And as she spends more time with Kris, they become a true friend. It was Kris who chose to be her shield when the king was about to finish her off, and they have stayed by her side ever since, no matter the consequences. But as much as these bonds give her strength, Susie still has a long way to go, because learning to open up to others is just the first step. The next one, much more difficult, is to stop running away and understand what it truly means to be a hero. And that's where the fourth dark world comes into play. The church's dark world is crucial for Susie. It's the stage where she comes to understand the most essential parts of her journey: the prophecy, heroism, and destiny. And this time, she's not alone in facing it all. This time, she has Gerson, the first mentor who doesn't make her feel humiliated, the one who allows her to feel that learning doesn't have to hurt. At this point, Susie already knows Ralsei has been hiding things from her, just as he did in chapter 3 when he revealed the true nature of the dark worlds. But this time, the confrontation carries a more tragic weight, one that speaks of a destiny no one truly wants, and at the same time, a seemingly inevitable end. Before we get to that, it's essential to understand why Gerson is a pillar of her development. He's the one who teaches her not to give up, challenging her to try healing again, and returning to support her in the fight against the Titan. He's also the one who teaches her that destiny doesn't have to have only one ending, even before she knows where the prophecy is truly headed. And it's here that she finally recognizes herself as the hero she always was. At the start of her fight with Gerson, she declares that she is the hero and she won't lose no matter what. Yet even at this point, when her mentor tells her she has a white feather that shines with hope, she remains skeptical, retorting that it's Kris who really decides their fate. However, it's possible Gerson knows something she doesn't, that the feather she carries in the stained glass window of the prophecy is none other than the pen of hope, literally in the light world and metaphorically in the dark world. This dark world teaches Susie many things, that she shouldn't give up, even when it seems like the best option, that she shouldn't stop healing because she is more than just someone who attacks, that true heroes are those who do the right thing, regardless of the consequences, and most importantly, that stories can always be rewritten, they can be better, they can change. And this last lesson is born from hope she received not just from Gerson, but from the dark worlds, from her friendships, from the kindness of others. And it is this hope that she gives back to Kris and Ralsei as a brave and warm gesture. Because Kris was no longer free in their decisions, even if they knew the consequences. And Ralsei was not free to imagine an ending that wasn't the tragedy foretold in the prophecy. But she had already made her choice, to believe in a kinder ending for everyone. Because if the first Dark World was about learning to trust, the second about learning to choose, and the third about proving that every detail matters, this world is about learning to believe that she's not alone, to believe that she can heal, to believe that she can change the rules, which is no small feat for someone who spent her life trapped in the idea that the world was against her. For Susie, Gerson is a reflection of everything she can become. Wise, not perfect, but steadfast, not invincible, but constant, someone filled with hope, like the hero of the prophecy, with hope crossed in her heart. And when Susie shatters that stained glass window of the final tragic prophecy and comforts Ralsei, she is, without even knowing it, already doing it. She's already writing a new story, one where the prophecy can be changed by choice. Because in that moment, even Kris decides to change. Decides that maybe they don't have to obey no matter what. Susie is a true protagonist of Deltarune because she is the only one who refuses to repeat the history as it is written, the only one who breaks the cycle, and the only one who, carrying all her wounds, chooses hope. And that is what changes everything.